Hi, I'm going to do a reading on John Lennon. I know there might be like a few John Lennons in the world, but I'm talking about the musician. Okay, wait, I'm just going to put this light on here. Okay, so I'll get into the energy. I feel like there's like a person or people who are kind of like forming like an energetic boundary around his like any information he might want to share. It's sort of like it's like this person or people are in the habit of like working with energies or like I don't know if I want to use the word witchcraft, but like any manipulative energy. Like yeah, it's like you have a choice, put it in God's hands or stress over it and try to manipulate it, right? So it's kind of like better to let God handle it. But anyway, so this is in this environment, like in the guise of like a love or protection or something. It's like this is sort of flowing around his space, but I kind of feel like his own personal space feels like it feels kind of in poverty. It's sort of like it's like if someone stole his inheritance, or what he had created and was like thriving off of it, and he's just sort of like bye, like off in the corner in poverty. That's kind of sad. Okay, so I'm gonna keep looking. Yeah, and I feel like some frustration of his over like some written contracts. Like I feel like there's some like fine print lines of writing on a contract that he's unhappy about. That he's like maybe made an attempt to protest that, but like the forces that were against him, whether people or a person or people, like had their way. I feel like he doesn't like love how his legacy is being run right now. If it's like being like if there's like merchandising or like wasn't there like a musical or like stuff like that? I don't feel like he's vibing on that in a positive way. I turned the comments off because it's like kind of a hot topic. But I'm just telling you what I pick up. These are not my opinions. I'm just like telling you what I pick up through intuition. Take it or leave it. It's just for entertainment purposes. Okay. Something about like a flower garden, like maybe on a house of his, like he really, really loved spending time in the garden. And it's just like this frustration of his that like someone else is living there, And if you think about like, how Paul McCartney's still alive, like technically, had he not been shot, he could potentially also be still alive, enjoying his property, enjoying his friends and music and, the things that he loved to do. He could have even had like more children, like 2 more children, another boy and a girl, with either 1 or 2 partners like post the marriage he had, like after Yoko. Okay. I'm gonna try to stay on John's energy because like it's easy to get sidetracked and look at the other people in his life, but I'm gonna try to stay on his what he wants to share. Yeah, it's just like a lot of messages about what's been written or what like some kind of contracts or like him not being in control of like his legacy or what's been said about him. It's like I get the feeling like all this commercialism is like the absolute opposite of what he like lived for, and it's just like he started seeing the people in his life with new eyes. Because I think like he was like literally and like figuratively like a peacemaker, and so he would like back down from arguments and let people have their way even if it didn't serve him. So in spirit he's seeing things with 2020 vision even more because it's like multi-dimensional, timeless, perfect vision. So I don't know what mathematical term would describe that besides 2020, like to the fifth power or whatever. I feel like in his hometown of Liverpool, like also he feels like sort of made into a cartoon. I've never been there, so I don't know what exactly he's talking about. But like I know here in Montreal, there's a lot of like giant murals of Leonard Cohen, and like he was a very private person. I don't know if he'd really want to have his face on skyscrapers and stuff. Really, like so it's the kind of the same thing, like where he doesn't want to be made like just this character, like he's a human being. I feel like this, like you know, when you cry so hard, you're like kind of coughing. You're not just sobbing; you're like coughing and stuff. Like it's that level of like frustration. I don't know if he had a cough, like because he smoked and stuff, also. But like anyway, I feel like there's a lot of interfering energies. Like so, it's like you have to be a ninja while you're like reading the energy. Okay. I feel like there's a river that he's very fond of, maybe in the country where he used to live, and like he's worried about its health, its safety. I don't know if that area is being more built over or people are mismanaging that, or if it's like a good time to step in and like protect it. I don't know where he lived. I mean, I know I've seen pictures of like a white mansion and stuff. Uh, Perhaps it's near there. Like it feels like it could be around there. Anyway, it just feels like a river that rushes, you know, like where it's not just clear water, it's kind of like a bridal veil of like movement type of thing. Okay. Okay. And just getting back to like he wasn't so much into being like this larger than life character. He was, to him, like his legacy is about being a human being, like on earth doing stuff, you know, in a grounded manner, connected to his home, his land, spending time with people he loved when he could, but I feel like he needed a lot of me time. Okay, I just looked up like really goth right now. So I'm not gonna do that again. So he, um, yeah, he needed a lot of time. He was an introvert, introvert, extroverted introvert. So he needed a lot of time to recover from being with people. I think a lot of us can relate to that. So then he would give his best in short increments, small increments, and then he would need to retreat into his own vibe, whether that was with a friend, just playing music, just driving around, stuff like that. So if his kids felt like he didn't spend that much time with them, it's because he needed to recover from that energy exchange of being in their presence, and he's a sensitive person. Okay. And it's he cared for his kids in other ways in terms of giving them a house and 3 square meals and stuff. Okay, John. I feel like because his life was cut so suddenly, there were some things he would have liked to do. Had he known a week ahead of time, he would have had some important conversations with his bandmates and other important people in his life to just kind of closure or things he hadn't expressed that he wanted to in person. It feels like at the moment of his death, it was it split into 2 realities, and all of a sudden he was looking at the other reality, and then that other reality kind of moved into the distance, and he was in his new world, which could catch glimpses of what we're doing here on Earth, but wasn't fully integrated with it. It feels more like just whispers of connections. I mean, that kind of makes sense because when people talk about feeling a ghost, maybe this light's too bright. Feeling a ghost presence is it's really okay. Actually, really subtle. Okay, what's happening? It's it's not in your face all the time unless it's a nightmare or something, but it can be a subtle "Ooh, what was that?" So that on his part, it's that same kind of just getting little impressions of people and their feelings and seeing them do stuff in little snippets, um, commercial length snippets and stuff, to just sort of get the gist of what's going on. But that he was left with his own energy, kind of in silence. Okay. Okay, this is weird. And so I also feel that I guess he had some kind of heavy duty karmic relationship with maybe the person that had killed him. This is an unusual celebrity reading, but I'll just keep going with it. And it's almost like the event happened in his life, and then it was kind of it was continuing. This conflict continued after he passed. And I don't feel it's completely resolved. So as a as someone who appreciates his like work and everything, I'm just gonna send a bit of like healing towards him. You guys can join in if you want to send him positive feelings, like for peace and stuff. Okay, I think that really helped. And as we were doing that, I felt that one of the messages about this is like, if someone seems to be your enemy, it's like, don't get caught up in like the battle aspect of it. Like, what is the message from that? Like, maybe sometimes the only way, and I'm not saying like enemies are good or like any kind of violence, none of that is good, but like the message like is like there's some kind of like interpretation. I want to say it correctly, so I'm just gonna go back into it and see. Yeah. So I feel like part of the message is like, just because someone is a really great performer, just because the world loves them, does not make them obliged to perform for everybody, to even be present for everybody. And that kind of like hunger on the part of fans of to interaction with someone that they admire is a kind of madness. And that's also means like, by focusing so much on what somebody else has created, you're therefore not doing what like you're supposed to do in your life, and then that can build up this like a crazy resentment against the person that kind of stole your interest. It's kind of really like really going off on this, but and then so it's like that's how like the love can turn to hate. So perhaps moving forward, we can just let artists, have the career they want to have, whether it's just playing 3 live shows total or like more than that. But like people shouldn't be greedy for them. And like the whole thing about like stadium shows seems excessive, right? And can be dangerous, has been proven many times. Perhaps like someone else's success in the arts can be encouragement to you to develop some interest you have in music or something else. It's not meant to be like, oh well, now we must like worship this person or put posters of them up, or it's like it should just be like, yeah, it's like music's fun, like look what my efforts led to, and like you can do it too. Like it's more just like a we're in it together kind of thing, instead of like, isn't this person fantastic? So in part, I'm feeling like his life was sort of demonstrating how out of control fans, like how that needs to be healed in our society. Okay. Okay. I picked up something about jewelry. Yeah, and I know before, like I'm wearing like I got this for like $5 at a charity shop, but it looks like really fancy, but or not like fancy for like everybody, but it's like in your face. But like I feel like there's some expensive jewelry that he's concerned about. Just looking at that. I feel he's unhappy about the distribution of his wealth. It's like unfair. and there's a contrast. And I think I read something about this, that there was like an uneven distribution in terms of like what Julian got as opposed to what Yoko kept and stuff. So, like things, it's like the whatever. It's like such a hot topic, but it's like, like like water balances itself, like things balance out one way or the other. It's like that's the lightest way I'm gonna say that. Okay, so I think I have a couple more things to say. Like this could be a 2-hour reading because he's an interesting character and contributed in so many different ways, not just musical. But I'm gonna try to just say one or two more things. He's also pointing out that like drug use or alcohol use is like really, it just feels like it's like being shown that it just like drags everything down. Like it doesn't help inspiration as far like from what I'm being shown. Like I think he would have rathered like this sort of pristine version of himself, even if that made him more goofy. He would have preferred that, I think. But like, it's like you are who your 5 closest friends are. So it's that kind of thing. Like his surroundings did not permit him to be sober. And I see him sending love, like paternal, like supportive love to his kids. So they might feel his presence from time to time. Like from my impression, it feels like Yoko was like, how some relationships can be like, you were a worthy opponent. Like it's kind of like you had fun, but it was like you were going through the ringer in terms of karma and changes, and like, it was really like boot camp kind of. So it's like with love, like you were a worthy opponent kind of thing. Like certainly a lot of changes took place during their relationship, like from how he was prior. Yeah, so it might not have been like long term had he stayed alive, like might not have been like a relationship that would have continued long term in terms of cohabitating. Being shown like that, imagine like the thing in Central Park, that little circle area. Just like, looking at that. I forget if there's a bust there of him. I think there might be, but like I'm getting, I'm getting, I'm getting he might like a full size, like a full body, like life size statue in bronze. Thank you very much. Like that's what he would prefer, and it feels like it would be on the upper side of that memorial area. And if there are no benches, there might be benches, but like it just feels more the circle. Is it a spiral in there? I don't know. Like, okay, let's let's imagine that it's a circle with a spiral. I don't know if that's what it looks like, but I kind of feel like crumpling that up and like let's make a new idea, and it's just like a very old-fashioned like hymn sculpture and like park benches that face each other in like a rectangle with like a nice mosaic or some nice like ground treatment whatever, but it's like a place to like meet face to face and talk and like just chill out and stuff, like instead of having it be like it's like the circle and spiral thing feels kind of like magician stuff that like I don't know, like the vibe I get is like it's sort of harvesting energy. I don't know, it's just kind of weird. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like what he wants. um because maybe he liked like some aspects of tradition. Like he was from Europe, and like no, I guess UK isn't considered Europe, but like whatever, old, the old world. Like he liked traditional memorials. Let's say that. Because even like that house they bought, I guess, like that white mansion, like that's kind of old fashioned and like typical mansion. Like he didn't like build from scratch some like crazy 60s house or whatever. All right. Got so much stress in this reading. Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah, and like it wasn't necessarily his idea to be like on TV in bed. Like he was kind of like, he's all for peace and stuff and communicating that, but like I think that the stuff that he felt kind of uncomfortable with, the overexposure and everything, was more Yoko's idea because she's like a performance artist background, and she was like his best kind of prop, in her work. So while he did like peace, like he wouldn't have had he been just alone thinking like how can I raise awareness about peace, like it wouldn't have been that. And like she likes to draw interest towards like her like sexuality, or like it's like what I mean, like being in bed, whatever. And like I went to see a performance piece of hers in Toronto, and she did something kind of similar where like she went in a tent with some guy and like there's some giggling, or I don't know, like it was just like, why do we need to see you being like possibly sexual, or anyway, it just like that like uh bed like press thing, whatever. It's like the big media hype around that was her idea, and I feel like he's showing me he didn't feel really comfortable with that. It's kind of like he thought of himself as just like a songwriter who works at writing songs, and then like all of a sudden in comes this like storm of like creativity person, Yoko, who like wants to harness his energy and reputation into like projects. And while that might have been like fine for like a little while, maybe 5 projects or something, I felt like it was like too much, and it became like this kind of dark thing for him, and he felt lost in it, and maybe went through some depression over that. But he really felt like, just like I was saying before, like you're a worthy opponent. Like she kind of like won. I think he would like to be thought of as just a man who wrote songs with his friends And just to keep it simple, like, he'd rather have just, like, a simple traditional pub, like, in Liverpool called, like, the John Lennon pub or something, and where it wasn't all cartoony, it wasn't like, what's that hamburger place, something to do with rock or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, whatever the, like, rock hamburger place where they have memorabilia and stuff. Anyway, it's funny, like, I can forget, like, the simplest things when I do these readings, but maybe I'm not supposed to name drop them, but anyway. Okay, one last thing about John Lennon. And just a final, because I know it was kind of like we're talking about like some sad topics, but I just feel like he has this like wonderful sense of humor, and just like feeling him laughing, and just like he's a really joyful, hilarious person. I'm really getting that vibe really strongly. Yeah, so I think he wants people to like find joy, like being themselves, and just do your thing. And like, if you want to write songs, do that. If you want to like, do something creative, or just feel kind of free to laugh and joke around, which is a form of creativity because you're kind of like being playful with thoughts and stuff. And just to be like kind of more humble, and just like, I'm just a man, I'm just a person, whatever. So maybe, if we consider his life, like maybe we don't need to be like going to stadiums, and we don't need to be putting posters of people up because it's just distracting us from our own personal mission. It's like we can appreciate what somebody else does, but it should just encourage us to like be cool and awesome in our own way, in our own authentic way. All right. I hope you enjoyed that reading, and I turned off the comments, so I have no idea what you think about it, but I think it would take up a lot of time to be like answering comments and stuff. So it's like maybe not the purpose of these videos to be like trying to be mediator about different people's thoughts about it, but it's just basically, here's the psychic reading, take it or leave it. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.